Obviously, this is a big day in these parts because the schedule comes out later on today, and we're all waiting to find out when Mitch Marner will make his return to Scotiabank Arena. But I ask you this as somebody, from the experience you come with and various different capacities and roles in this league, how much stock do you think the league puts into big dates like this one, like a Marner return to Toronto?
A lot. Number one for the gate, but number two, Nick, for the TV number. TV numbers last year were not good. And so they're putting more and more emphasis into that, and they're paying very close attention to the schedule because of those things. Rivalries matter a lot. NBC for 16 years created Rivalry Wednesday. It was a gigantic selling point. It worked amazingly well. And so, you've got to pay attention to those things. They got away from it for a while, and I think they realize now you have to have that. You look at what the NFL did. I'll use them as an example because they're the best TV league in the world. They do it better than anybody else. And what they did was they put the New York Jets playing against the Pittsburgh Steelers. I wonder why they did that on opening night. You can figure it out.
Yeah. So as a coach or a GM, when you look at the schedule, do you put a lot of stock into who you're playing early, what kind of start you're going to get? Are you looking at what's happening rolling into the playoffs if you're needing those points? How much attention are you paying to that schedule when it comes out as a management or a coaching standpoint?
A lot, Jay. It's a fair question, a good question. I think the biggest thing is 2 points in October are the same as 2 points in March. The difference is that you want to get momentum early so that you can stabilize your program. And as a management person, you should be anyways, trying to insulate your coaching staff. So the more success you have early on, the better it is that your players believe in the coaching message that's being presented. If you don't have success, all of a sudden there becomes this the coaching message isn't very good. Guys aren't believing in the message, and all of a sudden you got a problem on your hands as a management person. So you want to make sure that everything kind of gets out of the gate full steam ahead. But you do definitely pay attention, especially to division games, conference games. Those games matter a lot because, everybody says, 4-point game. They're 4-point games in October, just like they're 4-point games in March.
That's why I'm already bracing, whether it's October or November for Marner's return. They're just going to give the stock answers. It's a big game in the standings. You got to get the 2 points. But what do you envision the reaction being for Mitch Marner's return to Toronto from the fan base and everybody?
It'd be nasty. It'll be a lot like when Tavares went back to Long Island. Very, very similar, which obviously, Jay, you would probably feel for him as a former player in the league. But what happened to John Tavares when he went back to Long Island wasn't very hospitable. And he's about as nice a guy as you're going to get. And he did a lot of amazing things there for the New York Islanders for a long period of time. But it shows you how angry the fans were. You can understand they felt jilted. I think the same thing's going to happen when Mitchell comes back to Toronto. I don't think there'll be any warm and fuzzy stuff when it goes on.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see. I hope it's not too nasty, to be honest. I mean, move on. There's a reason that the fans wanted whatever, but the booing and the jersey checking, I hope it's not that way. But it brings me to my next question. You've been to lots of different markets, and there's a lot of buzz about Toronto and its hockey market and what the fans have to do with it, what the media has to do with it. What's your take overall as just the Toronto Maple Leafs market itself and what that does to the team itself? What's your take on that? It seems to be pretty unique in the league.
I think it's pretty civilized compared to some of the other ones. I was a kid that grew up in Montreal. I remember after Guy Lafleur's first and second year in the league, he was a first overall pick. They wanted him traded out of town. Good thing the management team led by Sam Pollock didn't pay attention to what the media and what the fans were saying, or Guy Lafleur would have been punted. And that's way back, but still, it's hard. Montreal's a hard market. Vancouver's a hard market. Tried being in Edmonton the last little while. Jay, you know that market pretty well. So, no, I think that there are lots of hard markets. Boston's not an easy market. New York Rangers is a very difficult market. Detroit hasn't played a playoff game since 2015 in their new building at Little Caesars Arena. That's a hard market. Think about what's gone on in Chicago since the 2015 Stanley Cup. So there are a lot of hard markets. There really are. There are a lot of hard markets. There's some markets you can hide in. There's no question. Toronto's not one of them. But if you're any player that's any good and you want to compete, the Toronto market's about as good as there is to play. And you are revered if you win. And if you don't win, you're going to get kicked right in the butt. That's just how it is. And you should look forward to that.
Pierre, there's a lot of pundits out there that are trying to tell the hockey universe that this Maple Leafs team is just substantially worse without Mitch Marner. And again, the proof will be in the pudding, but how do you view this team? Like, there's a lot of people out there saying the Leafs could struggle even to make the playoffs.
I'll never disrespect anybody's opinion, but I'm allowed to have my own opinion too if they're going to have an opinion. Most of those people never saw Machelli play. I've seen him play a lot over in Finland or over here in North America. He's a vastly underrated player. His hockey sense is exquisite. Maybe one of the better pure depth players in the league that nobody really knows. So I think he's going to do really well. Nick Alberga is going to, I think, thrive in his position. Obviously, as probably a third center. I think you're going to see some tremendous hockey from him. The biggest thing to me is the depth on defense is still there, and it's getting better all the time. They've got depth in goal, which they haven't had. I think last year when Stolarz got hurt and Woll went in, it gave him an opportunity to even improve his game. I know they didn't finish the way most people wanted, but those are valuable reps and experience. I'm more bullish on Toronto than maybe most people. But here's the biggest thing, and Nick, Jay can speak to this. When you have the depth down the middle, Matthews, Tavares, Roy, or Roy, I'll use a French pronunciation, and Lawton. And then I don't even count David Kampf. Like, there's huge depth down the middle in Toronto that I don't think people respect nearly enough.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it. Where do you think, if something could be done before the season started in terms of a trade or a way to make that team better, where do you see it happening? And is there any names that stand out that you think would be a good fit?
I don't know about names that would, stand out. I do think there are lots of players out there that might be available because I do think you're going to see, Jay, a lot more trading before we get to the start of training camp. I just think there are a lot of teams that have unfinished business from the summer, especially because a lot of the free agents got signed by their own teams. But I would say if Toronto could get a top six scorer, and I don't mean a top six in the league scorer, a person, obviously in the first two lines, I think that would help. And if they could get one more puck-moving defenseman, I think getting Henry Thrun from San Jose is going to surprise some people in a positive way, not a negative way. I saw Henry play when he was a kid at St. Mark's. I saw Henry play at the U.S. National Team Development Program. I saw him play at Harvard for his entire career there, where he was a captain his last year. He was, by the way, contrary to what all the media is saying, he was not drafted by San Jose. He was drafted by Anaheim. He was traded by Anaheim to San Jose. And that's a bone I got to pick with a lot of people. Stop reading the internet if you're going to write columns. Actually know where players were drafted by. That's one thing that set me off on Henry Thrun's acquisition in Toronto. I saw all these people say, he was drafted by San Jose. No, he wasn't. He was drafted by Anaheim. He was traded to San Jose because his agent, Matt Cater, created an amazing opportunity for him to play more in San Jose and showcase himself. I think he was a good pickup skill-wise, and I think you'll be very impressed by his ability to move the puck. He needs to get harder in his own zone, but I think he can do that, and he's a great first-pass defenseman. So I'm very excited about him being part of the Leafs too.
Very curious about that deal, and also curious what Brad Treliving has up his sleeve for the rest of the offseason. But I tell you, these Kadri rumors won't go away. They will not go away. It seems like somebody puts them to bed, they come back, and it just keeps circling back to Kadri being open to being a Maple Leaf again. Do you like that potential fit of bringing Kadri back here?
I'm a huge Naz fan, and I hope he knows that. I think he does. World Junior, I saw him get cut once. I saw him make a team another time, and he was really good in both instances. I never liked the way he was beaten up by the fan base in Toronto because of the penalties, especially in the Bruins series. He was a young, aggressive kid. He's trying to make hard plays. He's trying to play with an identity. Jay knows that. I love doing games that Jay played in because he had an identity. You knew what Jay was going to provide when he played. Just like I thought Colton Orr was one of those players. He knew what his identity was. He went out and provided what you had to have. And I thought Naz played to his identity a lot when he was in Toronto. He wouldn't be intimidated by the market. He's already won a Stanley Cup. I think he brings a lot to the party. I think he'd be a great teammate. If they could get Naz, that'd be great. Imagine having a center ice position now that we were just on about with Matthews, with Tavares, with Kadri, with Waugh, with Lawton. You have a pretty darn good center ice position.
Big time. What, speaking of a guy that can play that way, Easton Cowan, kind coming down the barrel. We've talked a lot about the jump from major junior to the NHL and, those under 20s not being able to play in the American League. Now guys are starting to talk about NCAA route in between the two. But for the specific situation of Easton Cowan, how do you think the management is going to handle him? Is it up to him completely, or do you think they have a plan for this young fella?
I think the plan's going to be come in and earn a job. And if you can, it's going to be great. There's sometimes where, and I've been through this before as somebody, whether it's as a coach or a management person, where you're kind of hoping a guy can come in and snatch a job because they make it cap friendly because they're an entry level. It excites your fan base, and I think it excites your locker room too when you got a young guy coming in that can really produce offensively. So, Jay, I think it would be really important if he could come in and earn a job. He's coming off with major street cred after winning the Memorial Cup in London. He's represented Canada before in the World Junior. Obviously didn't go the way they wanted the last couple of years, but he's been a really good player for a long time for a marquee franchise with the London Knights led by the Hunter brothers. And when you come out of the Hunter School of Hockey, more times than not, you're probably a little bit more ready for NHL hockey than most kids that haven't experienced, playing for the Hunter brothers out in London. So I hope he earns a job there. I think he's going to really push for one, and I think it'd be like found money for the Leafs if he could do that.
I like that. Like, let the kid dictate where he's going to be. I mean, much similar last year to an extent. I know Fraser Minton banged up, didn't take part in training camp, but I thought the pathway was pretty smart from the Maple Leafs perspective too, is let him marinate in the American Hockey League, bring him up. He had a couple moments. And I just think, especially in this market, you probably speak to this, both of you guys, but you got to be a bit more careful in the way you present the package that is Easton Cowan. But I think if he's there, Pierre, and he just shows he can make this team and produce and contribute, then you put him on the roster, right? It's pretty easy.
Yeah, I would say, under promise and over deliver, Nick. I love what you just said because I completely agree with you. You don't have to say, oh, yeah, we got this guy being on the first line and he's going to play with X, Y, and Z. You don't have to do that. I didn't like what Edmonton did. Rosie, I don't know if you agree with me or not on this, but, as soon as they got Isaac Howard from Michigan State, obviously through Tampa Bay, oh, he's going to play with McDavid and he's going to play with I'm like, what? How do you think Nugent Hopkins feels when he hears that? How do you think Draisaitl feels when he hears that? Let's see him come in and actually earn an NHL spot. As a kid that had to come out and battle your way to get an NHL uniform, you know what that's all about. And I don't want to put more pressure on a guy than should be there. So I hope that the Leafs would just create a situation where he comes in and plays his way into the lineup with no previous expectation.
Yeah, it's got to be the way to go. It seems weird when people teams that should know better too set a guy up for, any hiccup to be a disaster. It's like, why would you make it harder? Like, why not leave it open for the most, prosperous path you could possibly have and let the kid dictate and give him some room? But it's interesting. But you talked about Machelli coming in here and you've seen him and known him in the past. You think about Austin Matthews and who's going to get him the pill now that, a premier disher and Mitch Marner is gone. Do you think Machelli's got that spot locked down? Or obviously they wouldn't say that as we just talked about, but in your mind, is that a good fit?
It is a good fit, but I could see Willie Nylander getting the first crack to play with Austin Matthews and Matthew Nyes, Jay. But Machelli's really good. His peripheral vision is phenomenal. He's not afraid to have the puck on his stick in confined areas. He can spin away from traffic. He's got great confined two-step acceleration so he can break free from defenders. But what I like is he's a really slick passer. He's not a hard passer. He's a slick passer. He can make really creative plays. He's more of a playmaker than he is a pure finisher. So I see a lot of real positive stuff for him. I thought that was a great acquisition. And I don't know what part of the Leafs organization pushed for that, whether it was Trey Living because he was connected with Arizona and that's where Machelli was, or whether it was Max Domi, who was once upon a time part of Arizona, or maybe it was internal with the scouting department and maybe Shane Doan, who obviously knew him from Arizona as well. But whomever was responsible, I think they stole a player. He's a really, really talented kid.
Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long-form interviews, we got clips, we got epic rants by Jay Rosehill. We simply have it all. And don't forget, you can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much for watching.